Hello there, and welcome to my Arty Corner here on YouTube. My name's Angela Porter, and I'm probably best known as an artist for my adult colouring books, though I like to do all kinds of art. And I just want to welcome you all, especially all my new subscribers. Not that I don't appreciate my old ones, but a welcome to everybody who's subscribed in the past few days. I appreciate you all very, very much. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It's completely free, and it costs me, well, it doesn't cost me anything, but I offer you my eternal gratitude for it. Not just to new subscribers, but to everybody who has been here with me from close to the beginning right the way up to now as well. So thank you ever so much. And thank you for all the lovely comments and feedback. Yesterday was a funny day. So today is Wednesday, it's the 10th of August. And yesterday I just got so engrossed in a project. Time just went. Before I knew it, it was evening. And so, yeah, so I've completely went out of my mind about videoing and so on. I woke up with a burning need to do something. And that sometimes happens, and off I go. So, where am I today? Well, I'm sat at my desk, my studio space, with paper it's an A4 piece of paper. And what I've done is I've basically split it into 4 so that I've got, they're roughly postcard sized areas so that I'll be able to, cut out. This is my plan for this week's colouring page for the Angela Porter's Colouring Book Fans Facebook group. Since it's been started once a month, I'd do a template for them. But since the pandemic and all the stress that caused, I've been doing that weekly. I think that may have to change as the world seems to be going back to normal-ish, but we'll see, because I quite enjoy doing them anyway. And it gives me an opportunity to create templates or drawings that I particularly like, that perhaps I don't get to do colouring books on. So if you'd like to draw along, please feel free to do so. I must probably just fill one of these sections in today. And I'm going to do a typically me kind of entangled, stylised kind of drawing here. So back to pen drawing with black outline. This is novelty for me as well. So in these areas, I can have a completely different theme to them. So this first one, I'm going to start with something that is roughly circular, and that is very roughly circular. And I'm just going to pop like an opening in it. Even though I'm putting lines to the left and the bottom, just thickening the lines just to give some sense of dimension here, doesn't mean that these can't be viewed in other directions as well. So I'm just going to add some pattern to this. So I'm putting V shapes around. Sorry if my hand gets in the way, but you'll hopefully will see anyway, because I'll remember to lift my hand up at the end. So I've got these here. Now I've got options for this. I could put the shadow to the bottom of the left so they appear that they stand up, or I could put the shadow within so it looks like little cutouts, and I think I might do that. So I'm putting these lines opposite to where they would normally be. And I'm also thickening the line with this outside line. So I'm making this the area there, and I'm also thickening this to make it look like we can see a bit more of that edge. Just a bit. This one's tricky, so I'm just going to perhaps thicken the edge there, rather than try and thicken one of the sides. I could pick a side and just add a bit more. So that's quite fun. And then the other thing I want to do is I'm going to pop in some circles, ovals around the centre. Just to give a bit more pattern there to break that space up. And just add those bits of thickness there. So there's quite an interesting motif to start. And just to carry on, I'm going to overlap them so I have a group in the middle. So again, it's roughly circular. I pick a spot to put this in. It doesn't have to be dead centre. In fact, it's a lot more interesting if it isn't. So thickening those lines. Again, I'm making it consistent. I'm going to try and keep my paper this way. I'll turn around, but I'm keeping it consistent where I put the thick lines. So the next step is to add some of these triangles around. Not going to be able to see any round there, but perhaps I can pop one there and the start of one there, just to carry this idea going forward that they're overlapping. I'm sorry, my words don't want to come today. It is quite early. It's only just after 7 o'clock in the morning, so I'm awake, which most probably means I'm going to crash and burn later on. It's true, I do. Terrible. It was rather warm, I think, when I woke this morning still. And I've got the curtains open. There's a lovely cool breeze coming in. But we're forecast to have really warm weather again, which is not good for me. I don't do well in hot weather. So there's the second one. And I do like to pop things like this in groups of 3. So I'm going to pop one. Actually, let's pop one at the bottom. And then I can I've still got space at the bottom here to add some details. Let's pick that up a moment. Doing these kinds of abstract botanical things, I suppose they're sort of botanical or organic, it's quite good fun, especially for adding colour, because they don't look like anything that you'd come across, ordinarily in life. These could be, microscopic seeds. They could be weird kind of sea urchins. They could be fossils of some kind. They could be strange funguses, spores, bacteria, viruses. They can be whatever you want them to be, and that gives you the permission to actually go use whatever colours you would like to use for these items, which I think personally is something that is really rather fun. I think with colouring books that are based on things that are real, there's that pressure you feel to make it look like whatever it is, or to use those particular colours that you know something is. Whereas with things that are objects, I suppose, so my head is going to things like teapots and teacups, where they have patterns on them perhaps, and we get the opportunities then to use whatever colours we like. So to have organic things or things that are organic that look like they could be plants or flowers or seed pods or spores or whatever, strange things that you might find under the sea, then it sort of gives permission to use whatever colours you like. And as I said, that is quite liberating and fun. Not that you can't colour anything in whatever colours you like. I've said this before, is no colouring police. And it's a very personal kind of thing. There are a group of artists called the Fauvres, Fauvres. And if I remember rightly, I could be wrong here, they used colours that weren't real, but expressed perhaps their emotions or feelings, or a feeling they wanted to convey about whatever it was they were painting. So you'd get sort of like red and purple trees and things like that. And it was, I remember seeing about this when I was doing my A-level art and so on. One of my fellow students, another teacher, she found the Fauvres particularly interesting. And I didn't really look into them, but I had a particular fondness for the work of Wang Gris, who was a cubist and did a lot of collage. But again, a lot of his work ended up with colours that weren't real, but were an expression of that time and place and moment. And Kandinsky always intrigued me because it's purely abstract. And it's the use of colour and shapes, but with rhythm, and the colours express emotions and feelings, and just... And I still have a particular fondness for Kandinsky's work even now. During my A-level time, A-level art, in my 40s, nearly 2 decades ago now. Oh, giving my age away. What a shame. Worry, not worried. I did do some work that was inspired by Kandinsky, and I do mean inspired by, not copied, but I'd look at his work and perhaps pick out some of the shapes I liked and the way the patterns were done and so on, and the lines, and created some that were inspired. And every now and again I come across them somewhere where somebody cited it as if it is by Kandinsky, and I have to write to them and go, no, I did that one. It says Kandinsky inspired. Doesn't mean it was by Kandinsky. So, you're just thinking, oh, goodness sakes. The internet and people not saying they're researching, but they're not really researching properly. So, in that kind of way, amazing. So, I've just added some of these, which are, I suppose, are a bit like Crescent Moon, but not quite. They've got a lot more layers to them, and I haven't coloured the central bit in. So when it comes to colouring pages, books, I do like to give people the option of deciding for themselves what they'd like. To fill those centres in with. I will fill areas in with black from time to time. Because sometimes it's needed, the tiny little spaces that you can't add any colour to. So these are quite fun. They're going to end up looking like a strange kind of fungus. So I could just leave them as they are, overlapping, but I'm not. I'm going to find my finer pen. And I'm going to put some lines in that will divide these spaces up. And to do that, I'm going to go from the bottom of each of these bits here with a straight line. Well, actually, it's not straight, it's curved. I lied. See, my mouth and brain are not in sync. My mouth is saying one thing, and my brain's going, no, that's not what I meant. And I'm just going back to these areas at the top, and because a fine line doesn't attach to these very well, I'm just sort of like changing the shape, thickening them that little bit. And the other thing I want to do with my with my thicker pen here is I do want to give some line weight, just to help to, one thing is to give that feeling of dimension here, so to the left and the bottom. But the other one is just to help to separate these one from another, because the lines will help to do that when I add them. But this helps as well to create that layering, that feeling of layering. The digital art I've been doing, or that I got engrossed in yesterday, has been to do with, amongst other things, sort of like no-line colouring, drawing, painting with digital stuff without my black lines. And it's not comfortable for me. I'm really not, I suppose, happy with what I've been doing, because it's so far out of how I would normally work. I'm starting with pen or pencil drawings in this case, because I'm going to be inking it in digitally. And I also am setting pages out. It's a bit more, it's more how I'd work for a colouring book, I suppose. But it's not a colouring book. So I'm setting a page out with lots of different things on there that need to be on this, on each page. I know I'm not giving anything away, because I'm not. But this no-line colouring is vexing me, I do have to say that. Now this area here, I've got this line coming back in here, and I think that is where these would overlap. So I'm going to fill that in black, and that helps then to suggest that these are overlapping. Sometimes if I'd left that open, people might figure it out or do it in their own way, but to me it feels that that's the right thing to do. So let's have a look here and see how we're going to get these to, that works. It's just making them feel that they aren't just drawn onto this, but that they form part of this edge, like so. So that's quite nice, I like that. I actually do like those, they're fun. Okay, so do need some more things here. I like those so much. And I do like to put things in more than one area. So we're going to have some along the edge here. I've smudged there. But that's okay, because this is going to be scanned in and cleaned up digitally anyway. There we go. So we've got a section of them over here. So I need to do the same with these as I've done with the others. So again, it's going to be thickening to the left and the bottom. And I'm also going to add some ink to the bottom of these curves, just to help when it comes to joining these fine lines on. So that's quite nice. There and here. So yeah, so drawing, sketching out the bare bones of something and then adding colour completely with no lines. It's vexing me, as in I'm not comfortable with it, as in it's way, way, way out of my, and I hate this term, comfort zone. Confidence, I think, would be perhaps a better term, except I'm not really confident about anything much I do, believe it or not. There, that'll be nice. That'll work. So I've got some more work to do today, hopefully before it gets too warm. Because we've got advisory weather warnings for what for the UK is extreme heat, and warning for those with health concerns that can be chronic health conditions that can be impacted by the heat, and just to be careful and so on. So these do like this kind of shape. So I could be retiring either to bed or to a much cooler part of the house later on today. So I want to get what I can done while I can still do it. So there we go. So those are quite nice. Now then, I've got this area up here, and it's a strange kind of area to fill in because I need to find something, or to think of a pattern that is small enough to fit in there, that will be easy enough to pick out. And I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my favourites circles that have 3 other circles inside. One that's quite large, and then 2 that are smaller. I don't know what it is about this that I love so much. I just do. And so I go with that. Sometimes you just can't explain why you like something. So I'm going to fill this little area up with these, and I am going and thickening those left and bottom areas. And if I can't fit in the suggestion of 3 there, 3 circles within, where I can, because I can pop one there, then I'm not going to worry too much. And then I've got some space around, but I think I'll be all right. Well, perhaps I can just put a partial one in there, because that'd be all right, because it takes it up to that line. And then I'm going to be happy just to ink these in, the lines afterwards. So that's already looking quite nice, very pattern dense. And I'm happy to leave these edges with the lines in as they are really down here. It's not too big an area. This area here, I'm going to pop some of these seed, or I don't know, they remind me of microscopic water plants. There's a lovely YouTube channel called, I'm almost positive it's called Journey to the Microcosmos, or Journey to the Microcosmos, and they look at microscopic life under quite powerful microscopes, and it's just amazing to see all of these things. The person who invented the microscope, or the person who's credited with it, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, who I think was a Dutchman, was absolutely amazed when he took a drop of pond water and saw all of these living things in it that no one had ever seen before. And it's kind of like that whenever you, I don't know if any of you remember doing it or actually did it, but I can remember as a child, one of my brothers was given a microscope for one of their birthdays. I never was, but one of my brothers was. And I used to be able to use it. And it was the most amazing thing to look at things with you could see with your eyes, and then with the aid of a microscope to see details and goodness knows what that you couldn't see before. And it's kind of amazing and magic, and it opens your mind up to the fact that the world isn't just what our eyes can perceive, in the same way our ears can only hear a limited range of sounds and our senses can only pick up a limited range of things. And, you know, that's science for you. Science is about measuring and making sense of the world, but also looking at things that are smaller than we can see and things that are further away than we can see, and so on. And so it was absolutely amazing. And it's really, if I stop and think about it, it really is no wonder that I, became a scientist. And still am. I may not be practicing as such, working as a scientist, but my mind is very much still of that ilk. Okay, so here, what I'm going to do over here, I've just tucked one in there, and it is going to be one on its own, because it just fitted really nicely in to those sections there. And I think in this case that will be perfectly fine, because all the others are sort of like tucked underneath and around, and it just gives that impression that that one is just a cheeky little one that just snuck out and went its own way, which is fine. Or perhaps these carry on underneath and pop up there, which is fine as well. The other thing I'm not doing is I'm not counting how many loops that I put on these. I'm just doing it until it seems a suitable number or a suitable size. It's like that one has gone almost up to the edge, so I really will thicken that bottom line. Perhaps add a bit more weight to the others. So I've got some more of that going on. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm putting in another couple of these, I think. Or perhaps not exactly those. Perhaps I'll do something a bit different here, but use the same shape. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to just create them so they are not with the triangles, but with just splitting this space up with curved lines to suggest that these are rounded, I suppose ball shaped. So it's almost like imagining how your finger would travel, the line it would take if you were looking at, flat on a screen and tracing that, to work out exactly how the curvature works. What on earth? Oh, it's my alarm telling me it's my Able and Cold day. Well, I've been awake for a couple of hours, so it's a bit late. Well, unnecessary rather than a bit late, so there we are. I was thinking, who's phoning me? And then I realised, hang on, that's not my ringtone. I wouldn't be too chuffed if somebody was ringing me at 7:30 in the morning, let me tell you. It wouldn't come through anyway. It's the wonders of mobile phones, isn't it, that you can actually tell them that you don't want to be disturbed because you're sleeping at, certain times of the day, which is what I do. Bedtime mode and do not disturb mode go on automatically at 10 p.m. for me. And although sometimes I will turn them off, I don't always. Just filling these in here with some of these shapes, the circles again, so I've now got 3 there. And I wanted a bit of a gap here because I do want to put another set of these lovely kind of fingery, frilly, fungi-like things in, because they are rather lovely and they really are very interesting to add colour to and so on. So there's another one there. And I'm going to most probably pop these in as a group of 3 because I've got enough space to just pop perhaps a part of one in here, like so. I will turn that back this way because I'm getting a bit confused as to which sides I'm popping these on, my shadows, but it's fine, it works out. So this one could do with just that little bit more. This one most probably could, just to separate it. And I've got a strange shape here, but I've figured out a way of filling that strange shape in, haven't I, using these circular motifs, which is exactly what I'm going to do here, but not until I've put in my lines that separate. So like this. And there's the last one. And let's have a look here. You can see what I'm doing, hopefully. It's a bit better where I've got my hands and so on positioned for you now. It's almost like I'm creating a little world, or a little snapshot of an imaginary world almost here. Or a forest floor, or a pile of things that you'd find in nature. You know how things just all seem to be tumbled together on a forest floor, or where you've got logs and you've got lots of things growing off them, and they just are all there together, or in something like a coral reef. Or I just really do like almost like a zoom in of all of these things that could be found there. I must admit, I am desperate to add colour to this, which is something for me to say. But I need to finish the other ones before I even think about doing that and scan it in. So, so this, if you're interested in it and you want to have this as an image that you can download and print for your own personal use, not for, resale or republication, because, that's not what it's about, then just head over to the Facebook group. It's Angela Porter's Colouring Book Fans. And it'll be there most probably sometime tomorrow, along with a pile more that I have. This one does need one of these, but I'm going to make it a big one because essentially I can. And then I think I'm quite happy with, almost happy with the space I've got. I think I could pop another one of those just in there, like so. I could technically pop one in there perhaps, and down here, but I think I will here because that would make sense in some ways, because it would be very similar to what I did at the top there. This one I think, yeah, I think I will. And perhaps one there as well, just to fill this corner in. So there is just enough space to pop some of these in. But I think that now is done. The only thing that I need to do is to pop these bounding lines in. And in places the design has spilled outside the line just a little bit. I'm fine with that. In some ways I think I ought to draw these squares further in and leave plenty of space where you can see the inner one, as it were. Or, leave some space so you can, but it never quite happens that way. And these lines aren't going to be perfect. I'm not drawing them with a ruler. It's freehanding. Where there's little spaces like that little bit here, I'm just going to fill them in with a little bit of ink so that there's no need for people to struggle to colour them in. I think that one's big enough. That one most probably is. And we're nearly done. Fill that little bit in there. And there we go. A mini drawing to have colour and goodness knows what added to. If I was going to add colour to this, if it was me, then I'd most probably fill these with tipple or some other, lines and so on. But as it's a colouring page, I'm not adding too much detail. I'm adding enough that it makes it interesting, but not so much that it becomes impossible to add colour to. And so there's a lot of layers here, a lot of objects that are similar. And you can go to town with colour, or you can work with, same colours for the same items in there, or change the colours. Because in nature, even things that are sort of basically the same colour, there's variations in the theme there. So this one sets the tone now for the other 3 spaces. And so I'm going to work on those for tomorrow. And I'm going to have my trusty visual dictionary or my visual, I don't know what you call it, pattern book, pattern and texture and motif book or whatever to hand, so I can dig into that and use ones that I don't use too often or perhaps haven't used before in this way. These are very familiar shapes to me, but it's amazing how, even with the same shapes, how many different ways you can put them together and draw something that is quite different and quite unique in its own little way. So thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Just for reference, if you want to know, this is 13 centimetres by just a little bit short, or about 8.5 centimetres, which in inches is about 5.25 by 3.5 nearly. And this would fit nicely on the top of a greetings card. So if you were to print these out and colour them, you could cut them out, put them onto a blank greetings card or onto a postcard perhaps. I think it's a bit too small for a postcard per se, but it's possible. And could send it to somebody, you know. Possibilities, uses, you know, in journals and things like that. So I'm happy for people to use things that way, but not sell them. Okay, just saying. I give these for free, so, you know. Anyway, I witter. So take care of yourselves, find time to be creative, and I look forward to seeing you again in my next video. So for now, bye-bye. Bye.